Most meaningful things don't start with a perfect plan. They start in garages with borrowed equipment, limited time, and a belief that there's a better way to do things. Today's conversation is about building strength, not just in the gym, but over decades of life, about choosing the long road and about trusting that small, consistent work can turn into something real. If you care about longevity, resilience, and showing up for the future version of yourself, this episode is for you. Hello, Still Becoming community. Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Bobby, and I just want to let you know this is a space for people looking to achieve fitness goals or passions later in life. And I have a guest here today. I'm so happy to introduce Jen Travis. We'll kind of let her have the floor here in a bit. But, if you're following the show and listening on our podcast channels, or if you want to follow the show now on YouTube, be sure to go to the page. It's Still Becoming on YouTube, or if you want to follow on Instagram, the handle is at Still Becoming 26. If you want to be a part of the show or give a shout out for your Still Becoming moment, be sure to send us a couple of pictures and a little story attached to stillbecoming26@gmail.com. And as we get into this interview today, I just want to share a little moment about an introduction about Jen. She does have a partner in this whole space too, and she's not here today. And so we're just going to let Jen have the floor. But hopefully next time we'll be able to have her on. And, Jen comes to us today from a former corporate world. She has kind of made a whole change from that and has come into the space with that corporate mindset, but also enjoying the love of fitness now and really diving into it and just giving it a go. She currently enjoys, right now her big thing is powerlifting and competitions, and she's gotten her partner Hannah into it as well. And they just are a nice dynamic duo. I wish I could say it's like Batman and Robin, but I feel like it's like Batman. So she just enjoys the love of it and wants to share it with everybody. And she's now started her own business with Hannah. And in this space, we're in her studio right now, which is in her garage. And so, before we get started here, I just want to give the floor to Jen and just, speak about your business here. How'd you get into it? And just first off, if you have an Instagram channel, go ahead and plug that and just kind of let us know like what your business is about.
Thanks, Bobby. So my name is Jen Travis, as Bobby said, and Hannah Hales is my business partner. We started FIT.iQ a little over a year ago when we realized that we had a very similar passion to empower others and help people just reach their potential. And so FIT.iQ training is our business. It's actually FIT.iQ.training on Instagram and Facebook. So you can follow us there. We post really funny partner challenge videos. We post things about staying motivated and disciplined to show up and just try to encourage people. We also really like to share highlights from our clients to show what they're accomplishing and just to be proud of them in a public setting. Because this is a private space, the people that we train don't always get to, show off what they're doing. So we get to do it for them. So that's the kind of content that you'll find on our channel. What we really love to do and what we're about is just functional fitness, helping people, like I said, reach their potential, set a goal, achieve it, maybe go past it. We really love watching people just accomplish all things fitness, and it really does just make everything easier when you show up here for yourself every day. So we love watching that process with all of our clients. So
As you can see, Darth Vader in the background. That's how they are when they're here. They're like, "Hey, you better get with it. The Empire wants you."
Maybe some days it's a little bit scary like that.
I'm sure some of the people would definitely agree with that.
Apparently we have an evil laugh when we look back at what we programmed for the day and we're like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing today. Okay, here we go.
Love it. So, and how did you get into this space? I know you came from a corporate background, as I said earlier, and like, to most people watching this with a corporate job, they're like, I could never do that. Or this notion of like, juggling a corporate job. How do I work out still with it? Like, just that idea of you decided to just forego this and, say, I'm going to start something new. And you're approaching 40, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so just like I am, we're entering that new decade,
There we
and
go.
most people would see that with fear, and I see it with excitement of like, what can I do as I get older? But,
Yeah.
as you get into the away from the corporate thing, like, how did you,
Yeah.
decide one day?
So I used to work for Dutch Bros Coffee. I actually had this amazing opportunity to help them get through a IPO, which is initial public offering, which was a ton of work. I worked in finance and business intelligence, and I helped build out the team and the model and all the things that go along with taking the company public in that space. So I understand being very busy in your work life. I have kids, so personal life and trying to find time for yourself is nearly impossible sometimes. Um, Honestly, years ago, I started with like body weight, hit exercise, 15 minutes. This is all I've got. I'm going to do something today to feed like myself so that I can give everything I've got to this job, to my family, and all the other things that were demanding my energy. And it just kind of built from there for me, like in my fitness journey. I left the gym wanting more after that little bit. So you just have times and seasons. That was all I could give at that time in my life. And the amazing thing that came from working in that space was a leadership team that came in, decided to transition and move people to Arizona. There were, severance packages and this big long runway for me to decide what to do next. And that's really, I had at that point in my fitness journey, I had found this love for lifting and lifting with others and lifting people up, literally sometimes.
That's awesome.
Um,
Like, come on,
literally
let's
and
go.
figuratively, yeah. So I thought, I've got this time. I'm going to study and get certified as a personal trainer and see if I can make this happen. And I started small. I had a couple clients and I was like feeling that imposter syndrome, um, where it's like, do I actually know what I'm doing? But I've been a coach for a long time in different capacities, so that was familiar and felt like normal to me, whether it was mentoring in a corporate space or volunteering for, you know, coaching basketball, coaching track in the high school here. I've done a number of things in that space. So that just kind of led to where I am now. And it's been a year, little over a year for me training. Hannah's been training for a little bit longer, but we were talking over the last several months of my corporate career and decided that we complement each other really well. She has this amazing energy and just positive vibe and is so incredible with clients. And she's so connected in the community and it just made sense. Like I've got this gym, I have this space, I have the finance background so I can help with the business side of the business and she does a lot of she's the brains behind the marketing and getting the people. So we decided to join forces, and
Nice.
that's kind of how we got started and where we're at
I
now.
love it. If you
Yeah.
want to see their energy, you need to check out their Instagram handle. And they have some really just great stuff. They're really the true like test of just enjoying fitness, even when it looks like it's a bad workout. They just their energy is so great, as you're kind of feeding this too. The energy is really good. We get into another question here. What like I guess what is your go-to like thing when you come into this space? Like what is your go-to like workout or like, I see the assault bike over there, some of the spin stuff for those that can't see it. Lifting. And so, I know you've done powerlifting competitions, like I take it maybe that is your thing, power.
That is definitely more my thing than
Okay.
Hana's. I've done 3 competitions so far. She's done 2 with me.
Okay.
And it's definitely my jam. We're actually right now also training for Seattle to Portland. Uh,
Yes, I remember you telling me before we started this interview, you're like, I'm
yeah,
going to do that. And I'm like, for those of you that don't know, you can Google it on your map. It's like 200 plus miles or 200 miles, but
I haven't looked. I'm scared.
it's intense, not too intense. I mean, it's not like they're going up Mount Rainier to Mount Hood, but either way, to ride that long, and that is, I would say really not their background to do that.
It's
To
definitely
me.
Hannah's background more than it
That's
is
right.
mine.
Anna has done the 100
She's
like
the
miles in
yes,
Salt Lake
little
or
red.
yes.
Yes.
So yes, I take it this was a deal. If you power lift, you have to cycle with
It
me.
was not in so many words, but
Yes.
I was like, you know what, I appreciate you. And I'm gonna like try to be a good friend here too. Like, what do you want to do? Like it's your turn.
Love it.
So we're literally going from like this end of the spectrum in power training to endurance, which is like way over here.
Yeah.
It's like opposite ends, right? So that's been fun. But my go-to is definitely lifting
Yes.
and
What
deadlifting
draws you to
and
that?
benching, all the barbell things.
Yes. Being able to
Um,
pick up that.
what draws me? That's a really great question. I think I really like to feel capable and
Mhm.
confident, and like I don't want to sound like I don't want other people in my
Yeah.
life, but I don't need anyone.
Yeah.
Like I can do this,
No,
and that is a really great feeling. And it also kind of like for me, shuts everything else off for an hour when I'm lifting. Like I can't think about anything else. So all the mom tasks and
yeah.
the job tasks and the things that like pull us in all the different directions, kind of just get like put on the back burner.
Mhm.
And that's really nice to just feel like I can focus on myself for just a little bit, and then I can get back to everybody else.
I enjoy that. That's kind of the thing about my whole channel I started is mostly that idea of like everybody says they don't have time. And for someone like you, you came from corporate America. You also are starting your own business here and you have kids. I mean, to me, that's the typical excuse we like to give. And I don't mean to say this as like, hey, you need to do 200 miles or you need to power lift. Like, no, that idea of you set aside a little bit of time and that's all it takes.
Yeah.
As I've always said on my channel, a little bit goes a long way. Consistency, a lot of green little checks where you've done something. Doesn't have to be the most insane thing, but it starts with a walk. It starts with picking up a weight and just enjoying the journey of it. It doesn't have to be where you catch some of these YouTube, influencers and they're like, come join me for a 5K from mile 1, mile 2. It's great. I love that they're encouraging that, but it's sort of, to me, it's not the real side of it.
Yeah.
And that's really what I enjoy about starting this channel is more of that idea of like, hey, let's show the real side of it. That idea of a struggle, that idea of like mentally, I just don't feel like it today. But you know what? How you described your weightlifting, that is essentially, there's going to be bad days, but it comes back to the core of why you do it. It's fun. It
There are
leaves you
days.
more mentally
Yeah.
that,
There are
like,
days
love
where I'm
it.
like, I really don't want to go out there today. And then that first step, just like what you're running,
Mhm.
probably that
Yes.
first step out the door is the hardest one.
Well, and it's kind of hard with you too. You've got all the equipment in here. So there's no excuse as to why you can't come in here and
It's
pick up a
inside.
5 pound weight.
Yeah.
So that's the part of it is like, it's great for someone that, maybe has to drive to the gym. She's got everything right here. This is staring her in the face. When she wakes up, she knows downstairs, like,
It's
oh,
me.
shoot, it's waiting, it's calling for you.
Yeah.
But before we get further about it, like, tell me a little bit about your background. I know we'd spoken before you did track.
Mhm.
You've kind of been an athlete your whole life, but this notion of like, I've been a runner my whole life, and it's this idea of like, well, someday you're gonna break down, your knees are gonna hurt, but I just try to ignore that because I love this sport. I just love being active, and I want to at least give this channel of like, here's somebody that's coming at it, and they've been maybe a lifelong athlete, taking little breaks, but it's still this notion of you've got some experience in track and field as well. Go track. Yeah.
Yes, little plug for track.
Yes, but like,
Season's coming up. So
I know I'm excited. Oh, there's some great stuff going on already. But
yeah.
yes, but your backgrounds in sports, like what has built you up to here we are now? Now you're a power lifter.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny actually. So I've done all kinds of things. I played basketball most of my life. I tried volleyball for a season. Let's see. Soccer.
Okay.
Everybody plays soccer when
I
they're
did at
little.
least, yeah, I did at least one time.
And t-ball.
Okay.
I was really great at standing in the outfield, and softball. No hand-eye coordination.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, I've done a lot of things. I think like earlier in my adult life, I got very much into running because it's the very little equipment.
Yes.
Very little is required.
Yep.
Just get your shoes on, go outside.
Yeah.
So actually, I was a single mom for a few years in my life when my kids were really little, and I got a treadmill handed down and a pair of running shoes handed down. And so
Yeah.
I used to run a lot. I ran every day,
Okay.
and sometimes the treadmill was in my bedroom, so I could get on when the kids went to bed, and I would be right there. And sometimes, it was 8:30 at night, and I just got on and walked for a little bit.
Yes.
I think in my earlier adult life, I was a lot more focused on like losing weight and being a certain size.
Mhm.
And I think I have a much healthier view of health um, and fitness at this point, which is to be capable
Mhm.
and confident and able to move and build enough muscle that it's going to carry me through into my later years. And I'm going to still be able to get out of my chair without, hoisting myself up. And I can put something up on the top shelf without hurting my shoulder and stuff like that. So I think I have a much different view of what fitness really is at this point in my adult life compared to then. So that's been the biggest shift for me. And the powerlifting thing has been super fun. It started out, I discovered a few years ago that I'm really strong. Um,
Love it.
um,
Love it.
so running, so we're built for different things,
Yes.
right? I'm really not a good runner. I am really slow.
No judgment. I'm not the running police.
And actually in high school, I did track, and I was a
Yes.
sprinter
Okay.
and a jumper, and
Okay.
then I pulled a hip flexor.
Okay.
And so I started throwing
Okay.
because it was like, well, I can do this while I, repair and get better from that. And I love throwing. And that's actually where I started lifting when I was in college and learning about just like the main lifts. You've got your squat, deadlift, power clean, bench press, and you do a lot of that when you're a thrower.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like, I already knew I liked that stuff. And then, but like I said, when my kids were little, I didn't have time for that stuff. So I ran. And that's where I think what we've been talking about is just so real for many people. Just do what you can do
Mhm.
with what you have.
Mhm.
And yes, I have this gym out here, so I can wake up and I didn't always have this.
Mhm.
So I wasn't always a power lifter. I wasn't always really strong. But I did, what I could at that time and season in my life. And then when you can, and it's kind of the same thing with that consistency that you were talking about. Some days we don't have a lot to give,
Mhm.
and other days we have a ton. So some days you might have a 5-minute workout, other days it might be an hour. And
Yes.
that's real.
Yes.
So anyway, so my background with sport has been fast and kind of all over the place. But I think
Love
that
it though.
helps with my relationships with my clients and just my understanding of movement and the different things that we need to be able to do to accomplish whatever those goals are that we're shooting for.
Yeah.
So I think it's made me a like well-rounded coach
Yeah.
to just have knowledge about all the different things that
I love
people
it.
do.
That's the type of coach I like, is someone that can at least relate instead of this notion of like, what do you mean you can't run for 30 minutes? Like, no, or like, hey, pick up that 50-pound weight. And we're gonna do that a lot with no rhyme or reason, like at least there's sort of the soft sketch of like, what I did the training, you can do what I do. I'm 20 something. Like, no, the idea of being able to, even if you're not at that age, you can at least empathize with somebody that's starting out, and if you don't know it, it's more of like, well, go learn it, go find out about that. It makes you so much more so much more, your perspective's a lot better when it comes to at least understanding somebody coming from a sedentary life,
And I
it's
think
to
we need to
me.
lean into our
Right.
strengths more and lean
Yes.
into what we enjoy. Like, I think people think that fitness needs to be miserable
Yes.
to be effective.
Yes.
And I tell my clients, like, if there's something you hate, please tell me.
Yes.
There's so many things we can do.
Yes.
And same with me with the running and
Mhm.
discovering that like maybe lifting is actually where I should be.
Yes.
I started to mention that I just overtraining and figuring out like what I enjoyed. I realized like, oh, I can lift some pretty heavy shit. So let's lean into that. And then that's when I started registering for the powerlifting stuff just to try to push myself towards that goal instead of, running away from it and doing something else that I'm supposed to be doing. So I think people really need to understand that it's like important that you figure out what drives you and it might change over time.
Yes.
But also like what feels good. That's I'm
Yeah.
hesitating to
It's
say it because it's hard,
yes.
but there's certain things that feel better than other things for your body.
No, and that's the whole magic of what I'm trying to create is this notion of I want people and I know we see it as like I don't enjoy working out. That's okay. If your passion, as I've always, kind of thought about it too, if your passion is like guitarship, musicianship, you still have to pick up some sort of exercise and weight. It doesn't have to control your life, but it's all about mostly following your passion. And yes, I get into a lot of working out. People, I talk, a lot about my own journey working out, and it's mostly just because it's the only thing to me, I enjoy, and that's where my life is going to go mostly is running. But over the years, I've had to pick up weights to go into that background, and over the years, starting this channel now, I've had to get more into like auditory and recording and everything, which to me is like mind
Technology.
blowing technology. It's not just picking up my phone and recording; it's learning all this stuff, but it's becoming another passion of mine. And so, just because we talk a lot about working out. I don't want you to think this is a working out channel, but know that it's important to keep our bodies healthy to an extent. It doesn't have to be an Adonis, it's just more of working out can be fun. Just find your niche.
And it
And
can
that's
also help you with
really,
the thing you love.
yes. Sometimes you
Like,
can take time to be in here and you're like,
yeah.
I just need to go work out or go take a walk because I need to clear my head because I can't get over this notion of how do I complete this note or how do I rehearse for my play?
Yeah.
It's just
Using it
that
as just a habit in your
yes.
life
It's
to
it's amazing what
help
we
you
can
with
do.
the other things.
So getting into this too, as we're discussing working out and recovering, like, is recovery a big part of your days? What does it look like? Like, is it my recovery is to go spin for 20 minutes? Or, some days when I'm not feeling it, I'll just go for a walk or walk on my treadmill. To me, I think it's so important is to kind of introduce this notion of like, hey, not everybody lifts 100% every day, and not everybody is their maximal effort. To me, I've been trying to pitch that on my channel of this notion of, easy days. Yeah, I can go for 6 miles if I'm training for my marathon. And that 6 miles is really slow. And the idea is to come away with it not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. It's mostly like, hey, I need to sleep, but I also need to get my body moving. So, I mean, what is your notion of like recovery through this whole process, especially as you're getting older?
Yeah. So for me personally, I'm really bad at recovery.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. 'Cause
I'm not perfect.
if Hannah watches this, she's gonna call me out if I don't say that. So, um, and I think part of it is that when you shift your mindset about fitness, and instead of thinking about it making you smaller or reaching a goal of some kind, like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight or I want to do the XYZ, and you really figure out what you enjoy, and do it for the love of doing it. I think it's hard to take a day off because you
Yes.
feel so good when you're doing the things. So I think, like you were saying, maybe just scaling it back, a 6 mile run for you. For me, it's like, okay, maybe this week I'm going to lift at 70% or 60%. And so the weights are lighter. And I'm going to leave my workout feeling like, okay, I did something, but I definitely have more to give.
Yeah.
But I know that my body needs to recover. And that might be just a week or it might be a day.
Mhm.
And then I go back at it the next week or the next day. Um, but I think it's just important to give yourself that little bit of rest. I'm hesitating because I don't practice it as much as I
Hey,
should.
it's
Um,
it's it's a tough thing to do. I struggle with it myself. I have just gotten into this year for my first marathon buildup, and my workout yesterday, amazing. And I years before would have never done that. But I did, one thing I've added this year is I've, essentially some weeks I'll have only 5 days of running, but my sixth day, oh, I know, right? But my sixth day and seventh day, sometimes I'm actually doing something and I'm getting on a treadmill and I'm walking, using the hill category on the treadmill. Believe it or not, those are actually really fun when you get to use those programmed things. But I'm walking and I'm just letting the incline take me, and that's it. Like, that's the workout. And sometimes it's sort of this, like, that's it. Yeah, it can be that's it. So, I mean, it's
That's
a
how you should
struggle.
feel if you're
Yeah,
recovering.
it's a struggle, but I
Yes,
mean,
it is hard.
yeah, it's not a shame to be like, I struggle
And
with,
I always have to warn my clients,
yeah.
too, like, hey, this week, just so you know, is a recovery week. So you're gonna leave here feeling like you could have done more, and that's okay. I actually want you to feel that way.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, and you're welcome.
I'm
Like,
sure it's
it's
foreign to
hard.
them. They give you that
Hard for
look
them
like,
too. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, depending on the person, but I think it is important. It's important to give your like just nervous system the whole break from that stress.
yes.
That's the biggest thing, I think. So you can still do things.
Mhm,
You can have active recovery, but it needs to be to where you, like I said, feel like you have more to give
mhm.
and you have your heart rate at a lower range. Like that intensity needs to be, I'm even talking quieter because that's what it
That's what
should,
it's about.
that's what it should feel like. And I think it is super important and it'll help you to run farther, faster, push heavier weights the
Boom.
next week or the next session or whenever. Like you will feel, and I have found that to be true,
Yes. Oh,
uh,
so much.
that it is very beneficial. We
Oh,
actually can follow through.
right? When you start listening to it and that ego definitely, in some of these, episodes on my podcast I've talked about, like, kind of letting that ego rest and, feeling like, if one of the things I had talked about in one of my episodes was like, this notion of we're always like in this fear of, what did I lose it? What if I lose it? And
Yeah.
it's you're putting fires out so much to the point that, why do we put ourselves through that when, if you're doing it right, you should feel confident to be like, okay, well, to somebody having to put out fires, it's crazy. But to somebody who's just like, yeah, I'm good. I know where I'm at. I'm comfortable, and I enjoy not having to put a fire out every day.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the part of it I love, especially getting into it as I'm about to turn 40, this notion of this idea of like, you're not supposed to do anything incredible after that. Or, it's so quiet. If you're coming from a background where, I competed at least semi-professionally, and this notion of like, where do they go? A lot of times we think of these pros and all of a sudden they're just these, Adonises for the rest of their life, like Tom Brady. And he kind of made that switch to play later in life, of that notion of, I hate it when the announcer will be like, hey, he's 45 years old and he was still playing. I'm like, this man has reinvented himself to play at that level. And this idea of like, he's enjoying his recovery. And I think we miss that. We just think of, this guy is incredible. But I'm thinking, like, you got other people starting to make that idea. And I want that to become more known, of this, like, you don't have to be 35 and then all of a sudden you just fall off a cliff.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
no, like, you can still do impressive things going into
I
your
think
40s.
I think it's like so many people think that that just happens, but it doesn't. It happens because we stop doing things.
You eventually get defeated. You eventually feel like,
Yes.
what's
You
left
lose
for me?
muscle every year after 30, they say.
Yes.
But that's because after that point, it's usually people stop doing things.
Yes.
You don't have to lose it.
No, you don't have to. No, you don't.
You can actually be building it still
Yes.
if you just get after it, but and stop telling yourself it's a mindset. Like
I'm old.
somewhere in here we have a mindset poster with all these posters, but yeah, it's that mindset that you have to like retrain your brain. Yes, I can, and I'm going to do this stuff, and I don't care what that number is. I
Yes.
don't care how old I am.
Right?
Like, stop telling me how old I am. I got this.
I know, right? You just have to learn how to do it in a different mindset, a different, a way of life. As we get older, we shouldn't think about aging as oh no, it's a bad thing. What I like to think of it as is, I remember my wife came across this post of, someone had posted, I don't know where it was on, but it was like, instead of telling people I'm 37 now, or 60, I'm going to tell them, you know what? I'm level 37 now. I'm level 60. So it's that, I love that in a
That's like
sense. because it's that like I'm leveling up either wiser in the brain and learning how to keep up, or like, hey, I just reached a new power level. I mean, when people play video games, like, "Hey, I'm level 37 now."
It's a
Like,
good thing.
that's a good thing. So I really enjoy that. And you especially starting to train people and stuff when they come in here, it's that notion of how do you coach someone that is coming in the streets for the first time, embarrassed to be here because maybe they're like, I was a top athlete and I have that mindset. You have to get them to sort of, all right, like, hey, let's bring that ego down a little bit and give you some confidence first because your ego keeps telling you this and that's why you get injured. Or somebody who's like, look, I'm ashamed. I have never done this and I'm embarrassed to come to you because you're a power lifter. You're somebody like incredible when really you're like, no, I go through those same things. Like I
Yeah.
take time off and when I come back, I'm like, oh gosh, I should have eaten that. So it's more of, how do you get someone to sort of welcome fitness again?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes from helping them see what they are capable of at this time and season,
Mhm,
and just reminding them to be grateful for what their body can do. So, we start out slow, whether you're a former athlete or not. We start with very similar movement for a lot of people who are just starting out,
mhm.
because even if you've been a former athlete, if you haven't been working out, you can't just go from 0 to 60. There's this thing called progressive overload, right? So you have to like just get your body used to the movement, used to the weights, whatever the resistance is, if any. And so we always start out with things that we know people can do. And I always tell everyone that should is a 4-letter word. So we leave it at the door. Should and sorry. Like we don't say sorry in here, and we don't say should, because that just tells me that you have this thing in your brain saying that I don't know why I can't do this, and you're tearing yourself down. So we like to build people up
Yes.
and empower, and should is not welcome here. So what can we do? And we celebrate those things. So I think it depends on the client, and what their goals are, but we start a lot of people out the same way and with similar movements, help give them confidence in their movement so that they can feel good going to the next thing. And we take measurements, and not measurements necessarily of your size or anything like that, but how many times can you do a push up, or can you do a push up? And if you can't do a regular push up, can we do a kneeling push up? Or we have these TRX
Mm,
suspension trainers. We
mhm.
use those a lot for people. And we just meet them where they are and help them to see, like, this is what you can do. And we're going to build from there. So we take measurements, take a baseline, and then we build it up, and then we remeasure after a while and show them, look at what you've done. And everybody gets stronger
Yeah.
when they come here. And everybody feels like the things that they do outside of this gym um, are easier, and they feel more confident, and they sign up for races, and
Yeah.
they start doing all the other things because they feel so good here. So that's really what we try to instill in our clients, is just that confidence in everything else that you're going to do when you leave here.
Mhm,
And I think that grows their confidence in this space as well when they come back each time.
mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yep, it
So,
does.
but yeah, it's really about just meeting everybody where they are,
Yeah.
and then celebrating where they are and building off of it.
I love it. That's really what it's about, is celebrating the small victories, celebrating the little things, because they add up to a big thing. In fact, one question I wanted to ask you is when you get clients in here that are sort of in a dark place, because, a lot of people who are trying to find themselves at a newer age, I mean, they suffer from a lot of depression, anxiety. When you get someone in here and maybe you yourself have been in a dark place, I know I have, when I was starting to kind of realize my limitations, I can't just keep hitting the wall. I got to reinvent myself. Yeah, it was a really hard place to just decide, like, I feel like that's when a lot of people just realize, well, there's no point in doing this anymore. I'm just going to let myself go because if I can't do what I did in my 20s, there's no point in doing this. And I didn't want to ask that question anymore. I want to be the person that is like I've seen when I've seen people in their 70s and 80s power lift, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But I I want more touch on that, because I want to make that more of a real thing. Not everybody is 100%, 0% body fat and the most conditioned shape. That's not real. And so, when you are dealing with somebody with that sort of down mindset, how do you lift them up? How do you lift yourself up?
Yeah, I think it's really finding their why.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times people have numbers in their head, whether it's I want to weigh a certain amount or I want this size jeans or some kind of number that isn't really their goal. And when they're not there, they get discouraged and anxious and feel worthless.
Yes.
So a lot of what we do is counseling.
Yes, I know.
So it's not just throwing weights around and doing cardio and that sort of thing. It's actually really getting to know our clients and understanding um really why they're here. And for a lot of people, it is that confidence, moving through life with confidence and having mobility and functionality and feeling like they can do all of the things outside of here. And maybe that number on the scale or that size of jeans or whatever is actually, stemming from a point in their life when they weighed that much or they wore that size and they were happy. And so it's really about like digging into what made them happy at that point. What was it actually that was happening in their life? How were they feeling? What were they doing that we can try to tap into to see the real reason why that number is stuck in their mind. And then that really becomes the motivator. And so then once we've uncovered whatever that why is, it just helps us to program appropriately, to get them doing things in here that help them feel confident, that build them up and help push them towards that goal. And so it is a lot of behavior change and psychological. And sometimes if somebody's just having a really rough day and they're really sad, we just get the slam ball out.
I love it.
So depending on who it is, throw a ball at the ground as hard as you
I
can.
love it.
So,
Yes.
so we've been known to ask the question, is it a brass knuckles or a shovel kind of day? When somebody's having a rough day. Hannah and I can deadlift quite a bit. So do we need to help you? No, sorry. I kid. So, yeah, I think everybody has those days and really we celebrate those days when they walk through that door because the fact that they even came here when they're feeling like that is something that's a win.
Yeah.
So we're your cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to remind you of all the things that you are doing right when you're having a day like that.
Mhm.
And I think that positive reinforcement just over and over helps people to, start to feel better. And when you start to focus on the positives, you start to forget about the negatives and it just kind of, snowballs. So that's what we do.
I love it. No, that's said so well. It's, hopefully people listening to that, it hits home, because I think to me that is the biggest focus when I'm kind of going on in the years is I want those dark places to be more readily said and readily, out there because I think that's really where the change happens on those days when they're just not perfect. Yes, you're going to remember the good days and they're going to carry you over. In fact, my workout last night, it was hard to sleep, but it's like I can honestly tell you I remember more of the crummy workouts than I do the, good workouts because I can, make a 1,000-word checklist on all the things I did wrong. And I think sometimes that's part of just you putting yourself down and it really has to change. And it doesn't change overnight, as well as you can't feel bad for being down on yourself. It's one of those things you just have to learn to know that, hey, there is someone out there that can help you get up any more than, as my slogan is, you're the only one stopping you and you're still becoming. But, you know, uh, it's, it's something I enjoy about creating this channel. And, as we wrap up here, what does 20-year-old Jen think of you
Oh,
currently?
She probably thinks I'm a badass. Because I
Love it.
was like real focused on being small when I was 20 something, and I was a totally different person. Working a lot in college. I think I was recovering from an elbow surgery after throwing, just kind of did me in. And I think I was pretty lame when I was that age compared to now. That's not nice. You
Yeah.
just said to be kind to yourself. Um, but yeah, I think that we can really just completely change who we are at any point
Mhm.
and show our previous selves what we've got, you know?
Yeah, well, I think at 20, we're still very much learning who we're gonna be.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
I love that question because it's just that simple, like, really, I mean, some people listen to this. It might be 40 years since you thought about when you were 20, and you're probably another different person from when you were 40. But as we're getting our first experience of a new challenge in life at 40, it's weird to think about. Like 20 years ago, what were you doing? What type of person were you? Bet you were not the same person you were. And so I love that question to ask you guys. And for a final question, if you could work out with anyone history wise, dead or alive, and you are at the same fitness. I mean, I find that kind of weird if somebody's like Abraham Lincoln. Whoa, he's like jacked. I think that's kind of fun. But if you could work out with anyone in this space, and to me, I would assume you're going to choose powerlifting. Is there someone that you would just love to, do a session with,
Heck yeah.
and why?
Okay, so I think, well, my number one would be Jen Thompson.
Mm,
I've been following her a lot on social media lately, and she's a badass power lifter. She's a world record holder. She is 50 something
yep.
and bench presses something in like the
Ooh.
300s. Um, she is jacked and she seems really cool. Like she has this gym and she's got all these medals hanging and she's got her kids out there lifting with her. Her dog's out in the
I
videos
love it.
sometimes. And she just seems like a really like good energy kind of person that would be she would kick my ass.
Hear
Uh,
that? You need to find her on the socials, and you guys need to link up.
but it would be super fun to get to see what she does like in real life.
I love it.
So
Aw.
yeah, that's
Well, thank you for your time, Jen.
thank you.
And
This is fun.
I just want to say this was awesome. I am so happy we got to sit down and do this.
Me
I
too.
really hope next time we can get Hannah on here
Yes.
and maybe even get both of you, a dynamic duo in, the
That'll be
gym here.
rowdy.
Oh, hey, I'm game for that. I know there's so much more I want to ask you, so much more I just want to get into about all of this. But that's all the time we have today. And if you want to help send this off, as I just said my quote there, and I can help you along with it if you want. If you want to give a quick shout out to anyone out there, before we send it off, if there's anything, we'll
Oh, my
say.
people. No.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, remember, you out there that are starting to learn to get out there and follow your passions. Remember, this is still becoming. And remember, you are the only one stopping you.
Yes.
Have a good one. We'll see you next time.